Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a comparison video for you. Now, I mentioned in the full review of the PMP Grizzly that we might do something like this. And, I've been thinking about it since that time, and I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and get this video out there because I think it offers an interesting opportunity to come to discuss a few different points. All right, so this is going to be a comparison between the Cold Steel Formax and the PMP Beast. And let me start by saying, not a lot of companies are willing to be as bold as these guys are. Okay, Cold Steel has tons of massive knives, right? Think of like the Espada XL, the Raja 2, all kinds of crazy stuff. That's really fun. And I will say this: the engineering side of Cold Steel's knives with the Triad lock, I think makes some of those more workable than perhaps they would be if offered with different lock types. All right, then we have, of course, the PMP Grizzly, which just takes heavy duty hard use and just ramps it up to the max, at least in many respects, right? This is crazy heavy, crazy big, and it just embraces that whole ideology. All right, so we're going to do a full comparison here, and one of the things we're going to spend a little bit of time focusing on is, despite the fact that in fact the Formax is even a little bit bigger than this, what makes it more practical? Okay, and why would I say that PMP just took the practical side in the whole function form continuum? Okay, the Formax is definitely pushing the function side quite a bit, where the PMP is pushing the form side quite a bit. So let's do a quick rundown here in terms of size and weight. So we've got on this knife the Grizzly 9.5 inches, 4-inch blade, 5 3/8 inch closed, 4-inch grip area, and 12 ounces. This thing is super duper heavy. On the Formax, we've got 10 inches overall. It's 6 inches closed, so bigger in pocket for sure. A 4-inch blade, 4.25 inches of grip area plus a finger choil here, and 10 ounces overall. So definitely the Formax is going to be lighter of the two and a little bit easier to carry, but both of these are impractical to make your EDC knife. I'll be interested to see how this plays out when we get the new Formax that's coming for 2020. That's going to be a bit lighter yet than this guy. So I'll look forward to checking that out and seeing how that plays out. Anyway. Well, the size on these is crazy and impractical for both. If you get these in hand and if you get them in pocket, you pretty quickly realize that the Formax is a little more carryable. All right, because it's not as sharp on the edges. It slides in and out of pocket a little bit easier. Now, both of them are huge, and you're not going to carry anything else in your pocket if you've got one of these in there. Okay, but I think you can probably see just by the rounding and the overall, the slightly lighter weight, that the Formax is going to carry just a little bit nicer despite its larger size. All right, and for that reason, in terms of carrying it around all the time, the Formax is definitely going to come out ahead. And you're going to see that a lot here. And it's those compromises that we want to sort of pay special attention to. So what could the PMP have done? Well, we could have milled it out more. We could have used thinner blade stock. By the way, the blade stock is not that much thicker than the Formax, but certainly you're going to save a bit of weight there. And of course, the G10 versus full titanium is going to make a difference as well. All right, so you could have found ways to lighten this up a little bit. There are other knives that are big and crazy that are still, fairly popular and get treated as sort of practical, reasonable EDC tools. All right, moving on now to the blades. All right, let's take a look at what we've got going on here. So on the Grizzly, we have a compound grind on the D2 blade steel, satin finish, a bit of a clippish point here. You don't see a lot of blades like this, but it's definitely a clip point at its heart. Nice top swedge here, very attractive grind, I might add. I do like that quite a bit. 1/4 inch blade stock, and much of that full 1/4 inch is carried right out to the tip. It definitely, really does embrace the idea of a folding pry bar. On the Formax, we've got 20 CV steel, which is really nice steel. Stonewash finish, high flat grind. Now, it's not a full flat grind, and perhaps, it'd be interesting, I don't know, perhaps the Formax would work well with a high flat grind, but that's not what it has. Even as it stands though, because of that thickness, and by the way, both are thick, um, the Formax ends up cutting reasonably well. Now, again, as we're working our way through here, I want to kind of touch on some of this stuff. Could the PMP have made some minor changes to be a little more practical? Yes, it could. What if we pushed this fuller right up to the top, or removed it altogether and ground this all the way up to here, right? And ground this to there. You would have a knife that it was still big and heavy duty and had this crazy thick blade stock, but would actually cut very, very well. All right, so that's, there are some minor tweaks that could be made here that would make some huge changes. That would also remove a lot of weight. You might get half an ounce of weight removed just by changing the grind on this. The other thing I would like to see on the PMP would be a difference in terms of the steel used. So instead of using D2, why not do the 20 CV, right? Consider, by the way, the price point on this is $350. The price point here is $300. You could have gone to S35VN or something like that, maybe not quite as expensive as 20 CV, and given us a more stainless blade, which I think people would have appreciated. And so when it comes to just taking that, if we're on this function form continuum, you can see how the Formax goes a little bit toward function, while the PMP doesn't really bother to try. Okay, moving on now to lockup and deployment. So look at the the stop pin here. It's this massive thing. We've got the triad lock, which is stupidly strong and really comes close to, making the, I know it's cliche, but this is the closest thing to a fixed blade you're going to get. Now, is it as quick and enjoyable as the flipper tab on the Beast? No, it's not. All right, no question there. Is it going to be stronger? Yes. Is it almost as enjoyable? Yeah. Now, it's not quite as enjoyable for sure. And so for fidget factor, for ease of use, and for speed, the PMP definitely gets the nod. For strength and, effectiveness, you got to lean toward the Formax. But let me, continue with our little theme here, where we talk a little bit about potential changes that could have been made. So what if, instead of just a standard lock bar cutout here, we had tried to do some things a little bit differently? What if we had some kind of well, let's look at the one area that I think could have been done differently. So here's the relief cut. You can see it's quite a hefty relief cut. That does translate to pretty easy disengagement of that lock. What if we had ground this a little bit differently? I think one of the things you see in cold steels tests is that we have had these frame locks deform right in this area. So let's beef that up. One, you could either make it a little bit thicker, or what I like to do is what Ferrum Forge does, or what I would like to have seen is what Ferrum Forge does is, leave the shape of an I-beam on the front and back of this, adding a little bit of extra rigidity, which would have, I think, been a very interesting touch, especially with the knife we're trying to make here. The other thing is, stop pins are not, this is not likely to fail at all. It's going to be quite strong. But, what feels more hard use to you? Which stop pin? Okay. It would have been neat to see them tweak a few things, and perhaps even do something totally new that none of us have ever even heard of before, and engineer a different lock type that's trying to be crazy strong, just as every other part of the knife is this crazy overbuilt insane thing. All right, so that would have been a nice change. As it stands, okay, in terms of this whole competition between function and form, the frame lock actually does a great job. So I've got to really give it to PMP on excuse me guys, on the way they have implemented their lock. It's very easy, it's very enjoyable, it's comfortable, it's accessible, it's a really, really nicely done knife. And the action is very nice despite the phosphor bronze, or with the phosphor bronze, I guess. And that's nice to see when a company says, hey, yeah, I really enjoy phosphor bronze washers that are done really, really well, and they have done a good job with these guys. Okay, now let's take a look at the handle. Both handles are very comfortable. Both are very large. Even if you have huge hands, both of these are going to do the job for you. Okay, there's lots of real estate here. The cold steel feels a little nicer in hand, but that's because it's 3D machine G10. You're not using G10 here, and to go ahead and 3D machine this titanium would add, I think, quite a bit of cost to this. So I can't complain about the ergonomics really on either one of these. Perhaps you could have tried to lighten this even further, although they did mill out internally and save a little bit of weight. I appreciate that. There's not a whole lot that you could do differently in terms of the handle. Both are really well built. Both are pretty comfortable. The Formax is going to be a little more comfortable because of that 3D machining, or that contouring on the G10. And I prefer, or I really enjoy a finger choil. It's not necessary, but the PMP Beast does put me quite a ways away from my initial cutting edge. Not the end of the world, but just something that I enjoy. Now, some of you are going to disagree, I know, because I've had comments before where you're like, what is it with you and finger choils? It just takes away blade cutting edge. I don't know why that was hard to say, but just takes away cutting edge. Okay, fine. Wrapping this whole thing up, yeah, they're both impractical knives. Okay, they really are, and they both know it. They're not trying to be anything that they're not. All right, and Cold Steel really does embrace these massive folders, and I really enjoy that. And it's nice to see PMP doing something similar. I wonder if we will get a Beast 3. That'll be interesting to see whether there's still demand for it. These are limited production, so there's not a lot of them out there. If you want one, I don't even know by the time this video goes live if they'll still be available. So that's definitely something to consider. And what I would be really curious about is to see if you could make some minor tweaks to this blade to turn it into something closer to the Formax. The Formax is a knife I really, really love, and I carry it pretty regularly. The PMP, I love it for different reasons. It's just crazy and over the top, and because of the fact that it doesn't get a lot of the practicality points that the Formax gets, I don't find myself carrying this one as much. I did force myself to carry it for a couple of days constantly for the review, but outside of that, I don't spend a lot of time with this knife in my pocket, not nearly as much as I do with this one. Okay, so in the end, of course, I would go with the Formax. And if you've got $300 to spend and you want this crazy overbuilt but still highly functional knife, the Formax is probably the way to go. If you already have a Formax, if you're not going to carry a knife of this size no matter what, then yeah, the PMP Beast is a lot of fun, and it's a really, really cool knife, and just doing something that you're not used to seeing in terms of, just just throwing the recommendation book right out the window. All right, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'd love to hear your comments on this. By the way, use my discount code. I think both of these are actually available at White Mountain Knives, so go over there, use my discount code. That does help the channel a lot. Justin, thank you for all the help that you give to the channel. And PMP Knives, thank you for making these crazy folders. I love that there are knives and Cold Steel as well, but I love that there are people who are willing to do this and take a risk and admittedly sell less knives to make something cool. Okay, I really, really appreciate that. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching again. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.